So we're going to now look at the whole thing of amending a plan, and this is not particularly for older children, this is at all ages. This is another fairly contentious thing we come up against quite a lot. So if you already have an EHCP, or if you're planning to get one, you know that these have to be reviewed every 12 months, well, within 12 months of the plan being issued, and at least once a year afterwards. And at every review, they will decide, the local authority to decide whether to continue to maintain the plan as it is, whether to amend it, or whether to cease to maintain it. I remember this came as quite a shock to me when my daughter was little, because she was at a very, very good primary school. They were brilliant. And I have to be honest with you, the review meetings were a little bit of a tick box exercise for us, because they were so good at guessing her what she needed. And we just let them do the reviews, and we didn't get the EHCP amended until she went to secondary school. And that seemed fine. When she got to secondary school, things fell apart with such swiftness. It was rather a shock. And I then realised that actually that when you go for a review, and a lot of people don't realise this, I certainly hadn't quite realised it. When you have an EHCP review, you get a report from the review, you get recommendations. It's often together, it's called reports and recommendations, which make recommendations on things that also need to be done, as well as what's in the EHCP, which is good because it keeps it current, but it's not actually amending the EHCP. And a local authority are very unlikely to amend an EHCP every year. It's often not necessary, and it's also a big piece of work, and it's expensive. However, EHCPs should always be amended in preparation for a child or young person moving on to what they now call the next key phase of education. It's really very similar to key stage. So particularly a child moving from nursery into school, from primary, well, from key stage 1, which would be the end of year 2, into key stage 3, very much from primary school to secondary school. And again at year 9 for the move into key stage 4, and again at 16 and 18. These are really critical key phases of your child's life. And the number of EHCPs I've seen of 12 and 13-year-olds which still say things like, I use the names Jack and Chloe for everything. This is not about a Jack or a Chloe, and if you have one, I apologise. You know, Chloe will have help finding her playmates in the playground. Well, Chloe by now is 13, and she just wants to be hanging around looking at her mobile phone at the breaks with her mates. She doesn't need help looking for her friends in the playground. So you can ask for your EHCP to be amended, but at these times it really must be amended. It's not a legal duty, but it's really, really important that you push for it at that time. You can also, and this is also important to know, you can also ask for amendments at other times. And you can ask for amendments any time. You can ask for an emergency review meeting at any time, and you can ask for amendments at any time. That is your legal right. So if your child is in year 4 and you want it amended to go into year 5, you can ask for that to be done, and you can appeal if they're not happy to make the changes that you feel are appropriate for the child. So when they're considering and amending a plan following a review or at any other time, they have to send, the local authority have got to send notice of the amendments to the child's parents, clearly stating the proposed amendments. So what you need to remember is you may want to make the amendments, but they can also make amendments from their side with what the schools say. They are not allowed to amend your child's EHCP without your looking at it and agreeing to it. And what you do is you look at the amendments, either the ones they've made to see whether you agree with them or whether they've accepted the ones that you've made. And you can state further amendments that you want. You can take things out, you can change things. You can then propose that you would like these included in your child's new HCP. And if you're not happy, they have to send you a draft. And if you're not happy, this is another thing that you can appeal. And we do less of these than EHCP assessments, but we do appeal amendments, and they're usually, unless you're asking for something that's really, really silly, they'll normally go through.